the unfillable void. For as long as he could remember, Julian Vance knew two things. He had been adopted, and somewhere out there was a woman who had given him life, only to vanish. At 32, Julian was a titan of the tech world, the CEO of Vance Innovations, a man whose net worth was measured in billions. He owned penthouses with breathtaking views, a fleet of supercars, and a yacht that rivaled a small cruise ship. On the surface, his life was the American dream personified, but inside, a gnawing void persisted, a hollow space that even his vast fortune couldn't fill. His adoptive parents, particularly his father, a cold and calculating corporate lawyer, had worked tirelessly to erase any memory of his origins. "She gave you up because she didn't want you," his father would say, the words like slivers of ice. "Forget the past. We gave you everything." But Julian couldn't forget. In quiet moments, he would stare at his reflection, a handsome, sharp-featured face that looked nothing like his adoptive family. "Who am I, really?" he would wonder. "Whose blood runs through my veins?" When his adoptive father passed away, Julian inherited not just a fortune, but a trove of secrets. Tucked away in a locked safe in the old man's study, he found a sealed envelope, yellowed with age. Inside were legal documents, adoption papers, and a faded photograph. It showed a young, thin woman with weary but kind eyes, her dark skin a stark contrast to the newborn white baby cradled in her arms. A forced, fragile smile was on her face. Written below in trembling handwriting was a name: Amara Jenkins, 1993, birth mother of Julian Vance. The documents were a punch to the gut. A cold, clinical statement explained that due to tragic circumstances and extreme economic hardship, the biological mother has consented to full legal adoption. No future claims permitted. The reason for her consent was listed: death of husband in aviation accident, single mother unable to provide care in unstable financial conditions. The narrative his adoptive parents had fed him shattered. She hadn't abandoned him because she didn't want him. She had been forced to give him up, alone, grieving, and helpless. He had been taken from her, not left behind. The search and a glimmer of hope for weeks. Julian was consumed by a single thought: he had to find her. He hired the best private investigators money could buy, a team that had located heads of state and disappeared heiresses. They searched old Social Security records, death certificates, and public databases. Nothing. Amara Jenkins had seemingly vanished without a trace. The investigators concluded she was likely deceased, a casualty of the streets, her story an anonymous footnote in a cold file. Julian, however, refused to give up. He felt a powerful, almost spiritual pull, a certainty deep in his gut that she was still out there. Then, one crisp autumn afternoon, fate intervened with a cruel twist of irony. Julian had just left a high-stakes corporate lunch in the city's financial district. Driving his sleek, midnight black electric sports car, he was navigating the labyrinthine streets of the Lower East Side, a part of the city he rarely frequented. His mind, as always, drifted to the photo in the envelope. Those eyes, her face. "Where are you, Mom? Are you even alive?" As he approached a busy intersection, traffic slowed to a crawl. He glanced at the sidewalk and then he saw her. An elderly woman, her frame thin and stooped under the weight of a large, tattered sack. Her clothes were a patchwork of rags, and her feet were bare, calloused from a lifetime of walking on concrete. She moved slowly, head down, a figure forgotten by the world. But Julian's heart jolted violently. Her face, etched with wrinkles and hardship, was unmistakable. Those eyes, filled with a profound sorrow and a quiet resilience, were the same eyes from the faded photograph. It was her, Amara Jenkins. Adrenaline surged through his veins. Without a second thought, he slammed on the brakes. The sports car screeched to a halt in the middle of the street, eliciting a chorus of angry horns. He didn't care. Throwing open the door, he leapt out onto the pavement. A mother's heart. The old woman looked up in surprise as the young millionaire, immaculate in a tailored grey suit, rushed toward her. For a moment, neither spoke. Julian's chest heaved, his hands trembling. Then, in a voice choked with raw emotion, he whispered, You're my mother. Amara blinked, her confusion palpable. Her thin body trembled beneath the heavy sack. She stared at the young man standing before her, his eyes wide with emotion. What did you say? She stammered, her voice a reedy whisper. Julian's voice broke. You're my mother. I know it. Please tell me your name. Tears welled in the woman's tired eyes. Amara, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Julian's knees went weak. He fumbled in his jacket pocket, pulling out the folded photograph. The old picture of her, so young and holding a newborn, was proof. He held it out with trembling hands. Look, it's you. It's me. Amra's breath caught. Her eyes locked on the faded image, and her hands flew to her mouth, a sob escaping her lips. Oh, God, no, it can't be. Julian's voice was urgent now. Please, I've searched for you. I know what happened. I found the papers, the truth about my father, what they did to you. Tears streamed down Amra's weathered cheeks. She sank to the ground, her body racked with uncontrollable sobs. Julian knelt beside her, heedless of the street's filth. You didn't abandon me, he whispered. You saved me. You gave me life. Amra's frail hands reached up to cup his face, disbelief and overwhelming love in her eyes. They told me, she wept, her words broken by sobs. They told me I would never see you again. After your father died, I had nothing. I couldn't feed myself, let alone a baby. I had no choice. They forced me to sign. They made me take that photo. They said it was the only way to save you. Julian pulled her into a tight embrace. You don't have to explain, he whispered. You're my mother. You always will be. For long minutes, the two of them clung to each other, lost in a moment that spanned decades of pain and longing. Passers-by stopped and stared, a surreal sight of a wealthy young man embracing a ragged beggar woman in the middle of a New York City street. But Julian didn't care. He was home. Finally, through tear-filled eyes, he looked at her. Come with me, he said softly. Please, let me take care of you now. Amara shook her head weakly. Look at me. I'm nothing. I have nothing. You're a rich man. You don't need me. Julian smiled, a gentle, genuine expression that transformed his face. You are everything I've ever needed. I have all the money in the world, but I've never had my mother. Slowly, with shaking legs, Amara allowed him to help her into the supercar. For the first time in decades, she sat on soft leather. Julian pulled out his phone and made a call. Get the best doctor, the best care, and prepare the guest suite in my penthouse, he said into the phone, his voice steady and resolute. My mother is coming home. In the weeks that followed, Amara was given medical treatment, new clothes, and nourishing food. Her strength returned, little by little. Every night, Julian would sit with her, listening to her stories of her love for his father, of the terrible choice she was forced to make, and of the years spent wondering what had become of her child. One quiet evening, as they sat by the fireplace in Julian's penthouse, Amara looked at her son strong, successful, and kind. I thought I had lost you forever, she whispered. I never thought you would forgive me. Julian reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. There's nothing to forgive, he said softly, his voice full of peace. You gave me life, and now I can finally give you the life you deserve. And so, the woman once forced to give up her child, the woman once reduced to begging on the streets, now lived with dignity and love, in the care of the son she had never stopped loving. Her life, once a story of silent tragedy, had become a testament to the enduring, unbreakable bond between a mother and her child.